Rodriguez married 71 years. You and I have talked about the resurgence of interest in traditional weddings, big weddings. They're not just getting hitched at City Hall anymore. Today's edition of Brides magazine confirms weddings are more numerous, bigger, more festive, and more lavish than ever. I mean the long white wedding dress, the works, and though one of two marriages ends in divorce, Americans are marrying in record numbers. Today's bride and groom average older, 23.1 years for brides and 25.7 years for groom. Moscow, President Reagan insists on talking about human rights, always a source of embarrassment to the Soviets. Our president met with Soviet citizens who want out. He held a reception for them at our ambassador's residence. Also, the president insisted on visiting the 700-year-old Danilov Monastery. The second round of the formal summit talks concerns disarmament. Seem to be going fine. That's what Gorbachev wants to talk about. Appropriately, the Kremlin has chosen this time to release a new postage stamp. The commemorative stamp shows the Kremlin in the background and the words Soviet American Summit Moscow. And on the stamp are the flags of both nations, theirs and ours. And in the foreground, a symbolic handshake. In bloody Beirut, Lebanon, this morning, a car bomb exploded, killing more than a dozen people, hurting most of 100 others. Much damage to houses and businesses in the area. China, becoming westernized for better or worse. The population control law says only one child per couple, but in one city, 90% of all pregnancies are to girls who are not married. And venereal disease, which was almost non-existent in China, is increasing dramatically. In one province, Guangdong, which gets a lot of foreign travelers, sex-related disease has multiplied 300% in 1 year. In South Korea, 20,000 workers at Hyundai Car Company are on strike, and something new in labor relations. At one of the Hyundai factories, workers have been holding 11 company officials hostage. Wall Street. If the stock market goes up tomorrow, some experts will say it's because our trade balance has improved. If the stock market goes down tomorrow, some experts will say it's because our trade balance has not improved enough. And finally, a New York radio station, WQXR, has decided it will discontinue altogether, including these supposed experts' opinions on why the stock market does what. Good for them. Paul Harvey News stopped quoting those inane opinions years ago. More often than not, the so-called expert who gets quoted is some nameless, faceless, wet-eared, rewrite news person who doesn't know beans about economics. Now, page 2. How can I say this delicately? As we get older, that's not very delicate. As we mature, that's better. Any doctor will tell you, if you're a member of the second wind generation, to expect certain things. One of them is that we're more likely to experience heartburn, acid indigestion, and many times from foods which never bothered us before. That's what Digel is for. For when the plain antacids don't really do the job, Digel offers two things. It consumes acid faster, and it also contains simethicone. And simethicone you do not find in ordinary antacids. And simethicone is what relieves the mature person's bloated feeling of fullness. You know what else? A couple of Digel tablets contain as much calcium as a 6-ounce glass of milk. So, use Digel as directed. You're going to get relief from heartburn and or acid indigestion and a bonus of calcium. Digel. Oh, yes, you remember that Playboy furniture store owner, J.C. Young, who always wondered what it would sound like if a piano were dropped from a helicopter? Well, to celebrate his funeral, one was dropped from a helicopter Saturday in Santa Rosa, California. Friends and onlookers gathered splinters for souvenirs. The closest I can come with words to telling you what it sounded like is the word funk. The Pontiac Fiero may not be dead yet. Auto Week magazine this week says that if GM does not reconsider, somebody else may buy the Macon. Smaller, lighter weight automobiles are using less fuel and reducing pollution, but a Brookings Institution study says they're also killing people. This study indicates that government laws mandating fuel economy will kill 3,500 people within the next 12 years. Holidays always hurry a lot of people here to there and there to here, and many of them for the last time. Half a dozen weekend plane crashes in western states killed 13. One bonanza crashed into a backyard picnic in Phoenix. In California, the weekend has been messed up by brush fires, churning surf, and gale force winds, a lot of boating mishaps. A rare late season snowstorm dumped fresh snow in the high Sierra, 4 inches at Donner Summit, and the holiday got rough otherwise. A festival in Texas and a rowdy college party in California and a drag race in Utah each erupted into a brawl, and all left a dozen hurting and dozens jailed. Los Angeles street gangsters take no holidays. An elderly woman killed by a stray bullet, 4 people wounded by gunfire, and 1 man stabbed to death. And then, in Joliet, Illinois, it appears Andrew Baker drowned as a result of misusing cocaine. Autopsy reveals enough cocaine in him to cause him to lose consciousness in the YMCA swimming pool, and he drowned. Andrew Baker was 10. There was also fungus in his heart, indicating that the boy had been injected earlier with something from a dirty needle. 10. In Trim, Ireland, the nun run was a rousing success. 7 Roman Catholic nuns, some considerably overweight for jockeys, traded their habits for riding gear and raced their ponies before a crowd of 8,000. One pony called Nun Sense, just before the start of the race, reared and died. 3 horses, Sound of Music, Vatican Calling, and Mother Superior, threw their riders before the end of the 1-mile race. The winner at 6-4 was Sweet Divine by a neck. Winning jockey, Sister Charity Ann Nyland, credits her victory to the power of prayer. She donated her $1,600 prize to charity. Page 3.
Today in the Middle East, it was
Insurgents have taken
Hurricane Adrian.
Stay tuned for a special
The
report.
National Guard and Reserve make up 1/3 of our nation's defense.
Sir, I'm going to need some time to train with the National Guard and Reserve.
Mike, this really isn't a good time.
Can't it wait?
Can't it wait till after inventory?
Unless we have a fully staffed and trained Guard and Reserve, our defenses will never be at full strength to meet the emergencies that can occur in today's uncertain world.
2 weeks? You know we're short-handed.
Couldn't you make it 1 week?
So if you're an employer and some of the people who work for you ask for time to train with the Guard and Reserve, give them that time.
My hands are tied.
Who's going to work the computer?
It's just 1 weekend a month and at least 2 weeks a year. And that isn't a lot of time when you think about how much your cooperation means to our country's defense.
Tensions have not...
So as an employer, protect their future while they protect yours. Brought to you as a public service by the Ad Council, your committee for employer support of the Guard and Reserve, and this station.
Pope John Paul has named 25 new cardinals from 18 nations, only 2 from the United States. Archbishops Hickey of Washington and Soka of Detroit got red hats. Billy Graham preaching in South London to one of the country's largest black congregations. They overflowed the church into surrounding streets. Politics, Democrat frontrunner Mike Dukakis is now making a concerted effort to capture black votes, but Jesse Jackson says he can't do it without me. The Tokyo stock market overnight surged higher, rose 260-plus points. What's new? Perfume for babies. The French, who else, are making and marketing a Givenchy perfume for babies. The National Cartoonists Society has honored as the year's best animator Chuck Jones. He created Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig. Vanna White, before The Wheel of Fortune, made a racy movie as a go-go dancer. Jack Bicknell is in court seeking release of the movie, offering to change some of the erotic scenes. Sportlight, now the Indy finish is official. Rick Mears is first. Emerson Fittipaldi is second. Al Unser is third. And Ron Linder of Salem, Illinois, has a new fishing companion. The Australian Shepherd dog, which has accompanied him on his farm pond fishing trips, has learned to watch the pole for a bite, and then the dog on his own has learned to retrieve. When the fish has been hooked, the dog jumps in, wades out, helps land the fish. 5 years ago, the most polluted place on the face of the earth was the town of Cubatao in Brazil, a town of 100,000, 40 miles southeast of Sao Paulo. For decades, its 24 industrial plants, fertilizer, petrochemical, and steel plants, belched into the air a toxic cocktail of 75 noxious pollutants. People were dying because they couldn't breathe. Women were bearing brainless babies. Fish disappeared altogether from the rivers. Now it's 5 years later. The citizens of Cubatao can breathe again. Vegetation has been reseeded, and the fish are now so plentiful. They're planning their first fishing festival in 30 years. It took tough new regulations and vigilant enforcement of those regulations, but it worked. Violent crime or theft struck 1 in 4 American homes last year. But for your file of figures, Americans are saving more. Last year, we saved 3.7% of our income. This year, we're saving about 4.9%. However, that is still way below other nations. British save 6.2, Canadians 8.9, the French 12.5, West Germany 13.5. The Japanese save 15.6% of everything they make. Now, to page 4. Father's Day is a time when you want to let Dad know how much you care for him, of course. How would you like to give him this year a gift that'll last a lifetime? What in the world could that be? The only one thing I know of is the Aladdin Stanley Steel Unbreakable Thermos. A gift he'll be proud to own for the rest of his life. He can take it to work or out on those sporting outings or traveling whenever he needs a cup of hot coffee or a nice cold, refreshing drink away from home. The best thing about your Stanley Thermos is you don't have to baby it. Put it in your car trunk or truck or boat or duck blind. No matter how rough its handle dropped or banged around, the Aladdin Stanley Thermos will keep on doing the job, keeping his favorite beverage steaming hot or icy cold all day long. Remember the 24-ounce wide mouth size for his favorite foods, hot or cold, while he's away from home. How about it? Getting Dad a gift this year that'll last him for the rest of his life. An Aladdin Stanley Steel Unbreakable Thermos. Our For What It's Worth department understands a little girl was about to be seduced, perhaps raped, by an older man. The little girl was 12. She had lived a very protected life, rarely went anywhere unaccompanied by her mother. But now she finds herself unchaperoned. She is in a man's office. He has closed and locked the door, and he is rearranging his clothing. In fact, he's taking his trousers off is what he is doing. And then his underpants. The ultimately innocent little girl in all of her life had seen only one person naked, herself. And when she saw this man naked, what she saw looked so funny that she started to laugh. And she laughed, and she laughed. And her eyes are filling with tears of laughter. And she continued laughing until the angry, embarrassed, red-faced man yanked on his clothing and ordered her out of the office. And she left still laughing. Genuinely amused or just very wise for her years? Or perhaps a very good actress? Well, the incident happened 50 years ago in the Hollywood office of an MGM executive, and the little girl was Shirley Temple. Paul Harvey. Good day.
Let's